Amidst my mixed feelings for Sonic the Hedgehog as a franchise, City Escape from Sonic Adventure 2 nails everything I want in a Sonic level. No, a level in general. In order to give it the proper praise it deserves, I'm going to break it down to its core from the beginning of the level all the way to the end. Our starting point won't even be at the level itself though, but the cutscene that plays beforehand, as it'll give us context to some things we'll cover later on. The military had captured Sonic for a crime he didn't commit. They were in the middle of transporting him aboard one of their helicopters when Sonic decided to actually commit a crime by busting out the door, ripping off a metal sheet of the helicopter to use as a snowboard, and dropping off into the city. This cutscene is so sick. It lets you know what kind of person Sonic is, while also establishing the conflict he has to go through before throwing you in there with him. And man, it's never felt better getting thrown into a level. Instead of immediately seizing control of Sonic's perspective, the game builds up tension by dimming the screen and blocking your view of him. It also uses a lens flare effect that perfectly lines up the moment Sonic comes into vision and lands on the concrete. City Escape's track, Escape from the City, makes this payoff even better. You can hear the bass guitar play a quiet opening riff as Sonic's falling, then once he lands, the rest of the instruments crash onto the scene, capping off one of my favorite openings to a level in a video game. The snowboarding section is full of downward slopes with occasional straightaways and turns. Because of how the snowboarding mechanic functions, you'll always be moving forward, which is what Sonic's about. Heck, the song itself says, going as fast as possible whilst maintaining your speed and reacting quickly to incoming obstacles is a big part of the Sonic formula. It's a lesson the level teaches you without you even having to touch the controller, so regardless of your experience with video games, you'll get the message. Once you gain full control of Sonic, you'll most likely run into this row of rings, indicating that there's something of value. Another row of rings appears on the right side of the road, but this time you have to move yourself to grab them, so not everything's going to be handed to you. The encounter is sudden though, and it's possible you'll miss them. Whether you get them or not though, you're taught that you need to react quickly if you want to grab the goods. More opportunities to grab rings show up in other parts of this section, so you're shown that making a few mistakes is okay. During the first few seconds of this level, you can hear a military woman's voice communicating to her team about capturing Sonic, so even if you skip the cutscene beforehand or just didn't get the memo, the level will fill you in. What's cooler is the timing for when the lyrics of Escape from the City pick up. Take a listen.
Attention all units. Suspect seen heading south. Block all major roads and capture the suspect.
This song about freedom and bravery bumps in the moment the military lady gets done talking about capturing and restraining. What's even more disrespectful than that is when you take a step back and think about what's going on. Sonic rips off a piece of a gun helicopter, places his shoes on the logo, scratches the metal on his way down through the streets, and performs tricks on it, shouting things like while he gleefully disobeys 3 stop signs, 3 speed limit signs, and 2 do not enter signs. Oh, and at the end of these rolling streets, he treats this piece of metal like junk by letting it fly off into the abyss. A cherry on top of one of the most insulting displays Sonic has ever depicted towards a foe, and it perfectly fits his carefree, cocky, and rebellious nature. Never have I understood what a character is about this quickly into a game, and we haven't even gotten to Sonic running yet. There are rings here to direct you to a point of interest, the ramp. If you jump while on the ramp, then you'll gain some nice air, along with getting to see Sonic do a slick trick, which varies depending on how fast you were going before you jumped, and the angle you were at beforehand too. After every ramp, there's a crossroads for cars to pass, so if you don't time your jump properly on the ramp, then you'll likely get punished by hitting a car. This punishment isn't severe though, as you only lose speed, not rings. This is because the level wants to test your skills with easier obstacles before throwing you at harder ones. While the first ramp was more of a test and didn't offer much if you performed a trick off of it, the ramps afterwards grant you some items if you reach high enough. The view from up there is awesome too. At the end of the section, you're met with one last downward slope before launching off and getting a great shot of Sonic falling to the ground with that same lens flare effect we saw at the beginning of the level. Upon landing, you gain access to Sonic's traditional movement, but before speeding things up, let's slow things down to observe some details that might get overlooked by some players. If you stay still for a bit, then you'll have a chance of hearing Sonic say,
"This city sure has some steep hills,"
which is a comment on the setting, or
"What did I do?"
Which is actually a sad line when you think about it, since Sonic has no idea why the entire military is after him. These comments are unique to City Escape. Plenty of comments unique to other levels exist too, which is overall a nice touch to make the experience feel more immersive. Speaking of which, these posters are beyond charming. Look at this. We got a cheeky ad for soap, a real-life company whose shoes Sonic wears throughout this game. We've got some refreshing Chaos Cola over here, which sounds awfully similar to a different brand of cola that won't be named. This bench has an Emerald Not Work poster. In case you thought this was actually a real website, they put Not Work instead of Network. That didn't stop someone from making it a real thing though. Up here on the wall, there's an ad for something computer related? I'm not exactly sure since a lot of it's hard to read. The only thing I can really get from this is that RAM number. Oh my gosh! This game was released in 2001. No one had a 64 gigabytes of RAM back then. So this number being this big is the joke. The posters that show up in this level differ between the Dreamcast and GameCube version of this game. Since we're playing the GameCube version, we're only seeing its posters here, so I'm going to give a few shoutouts to these 3 Dreamcast posters. The Spring Festival one especially, since it depicts half of a normal spring blending into a version of itself that only has the lines of its polygons visible. I know that was a mouthful, but I just thought this looked pretty cool, okay? Anyways, you know how Gun's hunting down Sonic in this level? Well, if you turn the camera around in this starting section, you'll find 6 Gun posters right behind you, symbolizing their relentless chase for capturing Sonic. The gun poster is also the only one that's present in both the Dreamcast and GameCube version of this level, so no matter what version you're playing, you'll know they're chasing you. The camera starts out pointing towards the main path forward, motioning for you to move in that direction. It's tempting, but if you restrain yourself and instead explore what's over to the left, then you'll be rewarded with a small animal. Hear that voice?
Everywhere. Don't let the camera be your guide. Go everywhere, anywhere you want. You can choose. Explore over there. You can have anything.
That's the game telling you, hey, explore as much as you want. Goodies are just waiting to be found. If it wasn't already obvious, this level doesn't force you through any long-winded tutorials. It instead teaches you through its design, which is how it should be. That doesn't mean you're left in the dust if you couldn't figure something out though. There exists 14 Omochao in this level, all of which will teach you something if you touch one. And guess what? It doesn't waste your time with dialogue boxes and it doesn't take away control from you. It lets you move how you want as fast as you want while you listen to what it has to say, and that's cool. You know what else is cool? Splitting pathways, which you're introduced to the moment you land in this starting section. I know it sounds silly calling these incredibly small parts of the level splitting paths, but they really are, and they show you the many ways you can go about progressing through the level. If you run up the stairs, you'll see this rail you could have grinded. If you jump up high and climb up the ledge, you'll see these boxes you could have hopped off. No matter which method of progression you choose, you'll digest the fact that there were other methods available, which is important because this level wants you to explore alternate routes. Once you pass the starting section, you'll meet your first real enemy, which you can choose to either ignore or fight. If you choose to fight, you'll quickly realize that it doesn't pose much of a threat. The shots it fires move incredibly slow, and the time it takes in between firing is long, which is good at this point in the game. You wouldn't want the first enemy to have ridiculous attacks, now would you? You want them to be reasonably easy as you get accustomed to how the game works. And that's exactly this bot's purpose. You go, dude. Have a nice day. So after killing him, you'll notice that the road splits. The right path contains a metal gun crate. If you fooled around in the starting section earlier, then you would have learned that somersaulting into a crate destroys it, but not this one, so what gives? At this point in the game, you don't have the required power-up to destroy the metal crate, but the fact that it's there and you can't destroy it yet is such a tease. It adds replay value to this level by making you want to return once you have the required upgrade to see what this crate was all about. The left path has a Sonic Team ad on the side of this wall, and hey, the website shown is still available to this day. Pretty cool. Oh, and here's my favorite poster. It starts out saying, playing SA2 is habit forming. Now, whenever I hear something is habit forming, it's almost always in negative context. The vibe I get here is to take a break from playing SA2 every now and then so you don't get addicted. But then it goes ahead and says, don't turn off, encouraging you to get addicted to the game. This poster is plastered on a curved wall, which you can run along to the end. If you succeed, then you're rewarded with a ring box. If you fail or just don't take the path that requires more skill, then you'll get stuck with another enemy. This situation is reminiscent of the ramps in the snowboarding section, where if your precision is on point, then you'll progress quicker and grab some goods. Only this time, you may actually get hurt for failing, which is a step up in difficulty from what you encountered at the beginning. This stone pathway seems like it ends at a weird place, until you realize that it's pointing out the grind rail as a possible route. just like how it pointed out the stairs as a possible route back in the starting section. The pathway afterwards leads to some wooden crates. If you hadn't already figured out what to do about them yet, then you learn here, either through trial and error or through the optional tutorial. Here's the most recognizable poster in the whole game, Chow in Space 2. Nice to see something beloved get a sequel. I'd love that feeling. The following section is a more straightforward way of presenting the grinding mechanic. You're shown multiple rows of rings atop grind rails. You can't collect these rings by staying on the ground, so you'll likely jump towards them and land on the rail, showing you how it's done. If you didn't get the picture, then you can use the optional tutorial. There's a speed panel at the end of the hallway, which you're almost guaranteed to step on because of how narrow the exit is, giving you your first clear example of how a speed panel works in the most dramatic way possible, by shooting you up a curved wall. Atop it, the camera pans in such a way that it places a juicy 10-ring box smack dab in the middle of your screen. However, you have a choice of which path you wish to take, and they all exist for different types of players. Don't care about the reward and want to play it safe? You can do that. Want to take your time getting the reward? Go for it. Want to take the risk and okay. I can't be the only one that appreciates the thought that went into this. I admit that a lot of platformers have alternate routes, but City Escape makes sure each route has a good reason for existing, whether it be to teach you something new, offer you a reward, punish you for failing, or accommodating to the way you want to play. It's clear though that the level has a preference for risky routes, as the camera puts this one on full display. Only when you walk up to the edge of the wall will the camera pan down to present the other two options with clarity. It's almost as if the level is encouraging you to believe in yourself and take the most difficult path for the best reward. It's kind of heartwarming when you think about it. If you get curious and choose to explore beyond what the camera initially shows you, then you'll discover this corner, which has a tutorial on whistling, which isn't a necessary action to beat the game, but rather one that'll help out players that enjoy looking around nooks and crannies. This is such clever design. The kind of player that would find this tutorial useful is the same kind of player that would find this tutorial in the first place. Players that don't care as much about exploration would unknowingly skip this tutorial. Not like it do them any harm though, since the tutorial's only useful for players who do like exploring. It's one thing to have optional tutorials, but the fact that this one is guaranteed to be helpful to any player that comes across it because of its deliberate placement is crazy. A place more hidden than this one lies directly above this speed panel. It's a little awkward to reach, but once you do, align yourself with the tire and jump down. Nothing's there. This next part's pretty straightforward. Just touch the speed pan. Stop! Hear the sirens of justice? Well, they can be heard at every intersection in the level, which may seem a bit random at first until you consider what the military woman said at the beginning. Block all major roads and capture the suspect. They're forcing Sonic to take certain routes to ensure that he ends up right where they want him. Call gun whatever you want, but they had Sonic on lockdown in this level, and it'll only become more apparent the closer to the end we get. This downhill section provides 3 ramps for you to perform tricks off of consecutively, and it's the most satisfying feeling to nail the timing in all 3 of them. Especially this last one, since it gives you a brilliantly done dynamic shot of Sonic performing a sick trick through 2 rings of rings. If you got the Thunder Shield from the second ramp, then it's made even better. You'll hear a beautiful chime as the rings are all collected at once. You don't even land on the ground at the end, but rather a spring, which just keeps the momentum going. I swear, this 5-second section alone makes me love this level a ton. But let's say your timing on the first ramp was off, and you decide to hoof it to the end of the street. You'll notice a billboard in the distance depicting Chaos from Sonic Adventure, which is a cool callback and a funny one too, since it's hard to take this Chow in armor seriously. After making a joke of the speed limit sign once more, you'll hit the end of the road. While the level doesn't hurt you for taking the easier route, it makes you go through an uphill climb to rub it in that you could have done better. It's not all bad though, since a couple small animals can be found here for the more perceptive player. No matter the route you take, you'll end up encountering some enemies. Earlier, the foe's placements weren't a big deal. You were either on even ground or had a high ground advantage. Here, there's 3 enemies and they all have the high ground advantage. Not all hope is lost though, as you can see a few wooden crates just begging for you to platform them to safely reach higher ground. These ledges are also the perfect height for Sonic to quickly pull himself up. This section introduces you to the idea of observing the environment around you and using it to your advantage. Throughout this endeavor, you may notice the Knights poster, a reference to one of Sega's other IPs, and the Ringbox poster, which seems to be promoting an expo of some sort. The upcoming downhill slope has the 7th ramp of the level. At this point, you're expected to know how ramps work and what you've got to do to get up as high as possible. So they place 2 fantastic item boxes as rewards if you demonstrate enough skill. Failing doesn't result in punishment here. The level simply wants you to show your stuff. At the end of the road, we get yet another example of how the level design complements Sonic's character, since nothing screams rebellious more than running past 2 do not enter signs. Also burger. Now allow me to present my newest creation, the Speed Preserver. That's right, the Speed Preserver. Tired of losing speeds? You try to transition from one method of transportation to the next? Well, I've got just the solution from you. Just hop right towards this spring and you'll be right on your way in no time, all for the low price of your first chow. I don't have to tell you how cool it is to not stop dead in your tracks, right? Didn't think so. This grind rail's the longest one yet and has multiple turns to test your skill. Due to its downward slope, your speed will get built up to the point of no return. You'll get flung up to this sloped wall where you'll have to— What the heck is that? Hit it! Hit it! Don't worry, sport, you'll get him next time. At least he took the top path, which contains... If you picked B, more rewards, then you were right! City Escape has proven time and time again that it's going to stay consistent with this theme, so I feel like if I point out any more splitting paths, then I'm just going to end up repeating myself. I'll just fast forward the video so you don't have to sit through anything boring. I love how open this section is. It's like the level's telling you, hey, we know you're good at using ramps now, have a playground with 2 of them. If you choose to hop onto the bridge, then you'll come across a string of rings. It may not be obvious at first, but this is another segment, like the one with the metal crate, where you need an upgrade for the best possible result. Have a replayability sticker. You did a good job, string of rings. Take a look at the curves on this wall. It makes the first one you saw look puny in comparison. The first shuttle loop of the whole game comes right after, and it's, dare I say, the best shuttle loop in the whole Sonic franchise. There's multiple speed panels to accelerate you fast enough to go up the loop. Instead of bringing you down to ground level instantly like most shuttle loops do, this one goes for spectacle by giving you a head-on perspective of Sonic running down a skyscraper at high speeds. To top it all off, the trusty Speed Preserver comes to rescue at the end, allowing you to keep your pace off that adrenaline rush. A new mechanic's introduced here in the form of horizontal bars. When you grab onto the first one, the camera will show you where you're going to land if you get the timing right within the red. What's great here is you can try as many times as you need to without worry. It's only the second horizontal bar where things start shaking up. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about splitting paths anymore, but this camera angle is game design at its finest. It clearly displays Sonic, the jump indicator, the reward if you succeed, the punishment if you fail, and how much time you have left to jump in the form of the robot's bullets. I'm gonna need a picture of this up on my wall, it's so beautiful. Disregarding the reward for now, let's acknowledge that this section of the level is the most puzzling out of them all. For starters, we've got not 1, but 4 metal crates embedded in the ground. While the first metal crate was a little mysterious, these 4 will leave you clueless on your first playthrough. Is there something inside of them? Is there a hole below them? Even if I get strong enough to break metal crates by somersaulting, how do I hit these ones? I imagine these are the kinds of questions that might run through a first-timer's head. But things get even more confusing if you choose to explore this corner, where you'll find an object that doesn't conform to anything you've seen up until this point. At least with the 4 metal crates from earlier, you had seen a crate before. This thing's straight up alien. Even Sonic doesn't help out in solving this mystery.
Looks like some old ruins.
Need I say? Replayability. You may be wondering, but Zoom of the Zykes, how in the world is it better level design to create things that players can't access unless they replay the level later on? That sounds like artificially lengthening playtime. No, these little occurrences have 2 parts to them, the build-up and the payoff. The build-up is when you first see them. You try to figure out what's going on and how you can overcome the obstacle. When you inevitably have to move on since you don't have the required power-up, you'll wonder what those sections were all about. The payoff is when you get some upgrades and realize, oh, that's how I break that metal crate from before. Conquering obstacles like these is beyond satisfying for 2 reasons. 1, you yourself figured out what to do. The game didn't hold you by the hand. 2. It shows how much you've grown since the beginning of the journey, and that's awesome. Getting back to the horizontal bars though, there's an invincibility box as a reward if you successfully time your jump. In the event that you miss the invincibility, you can easily jump from the well-placed crate here. There's nothing like ripping through enemies while a guitar hails your name in the background. This is the last and longest grind rail section in the entire level. It feels like one last hurrah before finishing. You're even launched into a horizontal bar for the opportunity to show off before reaching the goal, right? Nope. Checkpoint. Yep, that's not the end. This level started with Sonic happily breaking free from Gun's helicopter, and now it's ending with Gun using a massive armored vehicle to pursue Sonic through whatever means necessary, even if it results in mass destruction of this highly populated city. Your only option is to run away from this relentless machine that will happily end multiple lives so long as its objective is fulfilled. The intense music that plays throughout this pursuit further fuels the chaos of it all. I can't imagine a more climactic finish to one of my favorite levels of all time. City Escape is truly a masterpiece of game design. It introduces Sonic perfectly with the high-speed snowboarding section just because it can. Its level design gives you the freedom to choose which path you want and respects your ability to figure things out. It gives you tons of opportunities to show off and be cocky. It rewards you for exploring hidden areas. It rewards you for replaying the level and revisiting old areas. It rewards your ears when you listen to its catchy theme, and it has an adrenaline-pumping finale that I won't ever be able to forget. It's good game design, man, and it makes me happy. What more can I say? City Escape is awesome, and I hope that I've been able to convince you that it's awesome, and I hope you have even the slightest ounce of appreciation for it as I do. Have a good day, and I'll see you later.